Welcome to Touched and Empowered, a show created to empower individuals to value their lives by hosting think tank discussions that will inspire positive action. Touched and Empowered with Katie and Ace starts now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Touched and Empowered podcast. I'm here with Katie and Rosie Aiello. She's an incredible woman's life and transformation coach. After escaping a 25-year abusive relationship in the Middle East, Rosie Aiello rebuilt her life from trauma to triumph. Now an international speaker, best-selling author, podcast host, and award-winning entrepreneur, she empowers women who've survived toxic relationships to reclaim their voice, confidence, joy, and discover kind love. Rosie co-founded National Love is Kind Day, July 27th, with her daughter, a global mission to inspire 100 or more million women and children to believe they deserve kind, safe love. She's featured on television, Inspired Conversations, Reinvention Radio, and numerous other podcasts, summits, and stages around the world. 10% of net profits are contributed to the Love is Kind Fund to support women and children survivors of domestic violence. She holds an MBA and several certifications, including life coaching and neuro-linguistic programming. In her free time, Rosie enjoys health bar, indoor spinning, and whole food plant-based cooking. With the love of her life, they enjoy water sports, traveling, strolling along the beach, holding hands, and soaking in sunsets together. She's a big fan of hugs, virtual or otherwise.
Definitely.
And we are too.
All right.
Ace and I send messages back. It's always like hugs.
Good.
That's her sign off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first, the mission that you are on about raising the positivity level of the planet with kindness and love is very empowering. And it's something that I'm sure everyone's been touched at some point in time where they experienced love that might not have been kind. So how did you decide to link it as kind love? Because that's not something I personally have heard used before.
Oh, I am so glad you asked that question because I'm going to go back a couple steps. When we came up with the name, the Love is Kind Network, we were kind of inspired by Mother Teresa. And she said something to the effect of, if you invite me to an anti-war rally, I won't be there. I won't show up. But if you invite me to a pro-peace rally, I will be there. And that's why I wanted something that we wanted. I didn't want to have abuse or narcissism or domestic violence. I didn't want to keep that dialogue always in front of us. Plus the energy of it just sucks me, and I can't even do it. I was thinking about it today. And I know through marketing, the women are going to type in, domestic violence, and those are the ones that they get a lot of attraction. But the mission is what you want. What are you going after? What is it? And the specification of kind love, which you asked, Katie, and I appreciate that, is when you've been in these toxic relationships, the love, as in quotes, quoting love, is been abused. So I'm doing this because I love you, as they slap you around, right? Or hit you, or just insult you, or do all these things. And because I love you, I have to do these things. And so it can actually trigger women who have been in these relationships to say, love is, just love everybody. No, you can't do that. I want them to look for kind love, differentiating between love, how they may have experienced it, which was not healthy, to the reality of real love is kind. And that's why it's kind love. And I try when I write, always emphasize kind love or love is kind or some. I always associate the two together. I, that's so. I hope that it answers you, and it's just such an important foundation to everything I do and how I want to show up in the world and how I want people to start looking at it, what's important in their lives.
I think that's a great way of reframing, because when we're in that space where at the time we might not know that it's tainted,
That's right.
it's when we finally break free and, first of all, learn to love ourselves. Being kind with that love is really important too.
100%. And for me, I had a hard time the concept of loving myself. It felt awkward for me. It's like I don't know how to relate to that, but to be kind to myself, I could. That seemed like an easier goal to reach than to love myself. It's like I don't know about loving myself, and because of how I was treated for so long, it's like I just craved to be treated with kindness. And as I work with women who have had, let's say, these kinds of how, whether it was for the parent or somebody else, and it happens anywhere in the world, right? Anywhere in the world, abuse doesn't have any boundaries whatsoever. And we see it in, it can be with your neighbor, your friend, your colleague, your boss, the doctor, the lawyer, the politicians. You see it everywhere. So it's important to really understand what is happening here and why, when you are kind to yourself, this is the first premise, is always the first premise when I'm working with somebody. When you're kind to yourself, it means you honor yourself first. Because unless you, if you don't honor yourself, how can you expect somebody else to love and respect you? How can you, how can you expect somebody to do something that you want that you can't do to yourself? And that's kind of why I says, well, I don't know if I can love myself. It just felt weird to me, that but I can be kind to myself. I can honor myself. And there are, ways to build up your confidence to be able to do that.
And that's a great segue as to what daily habits support building unshakable self-worth and lasting joy.
And this is a good question because, again, our foundation is really the key. And the key, part of that key of foundation is really knowing your values. And there's a whole process of doing that. Like, I remember, I think most of us is like, I never looked at my values. I never asked myself what's important in my life. I just kind of bopped along, like I collected values like I collected seashells. It's just, I never paid attention to them. I never challenged them. And you grow up, you kind of absorb them through your family, whether you realize it or not, from how relationships are, the dynamic of relationships, to how they handle money, to their views of the world. You just pick them up, a religion for maybe perhaps for some people, and we just accept them without knowing as we become adults whether those are our values, whether those are the values that we want to have. We want to actively understand what they are and choose our values. Okay, this is a value I grew up with, and yeah, I like that value. I'm going to keep it. My father was a very kind person, and I think that was probably the underlying stream that just kept me grounded when I was going through this stuff. Even though I was married for 18 years, it took me 25 years to get out. I mean, before I got out, but I was married 18 years before I even knew I was in an abusive relationship, because that was another thing. We'll get into that. But this whole thing of kindness. But what I didn't know was, I didn't know that I didn't like not being talked to, being talked to in a demeaning way. I mean, I knew I didn't like it, but I didn't know it as a value, right? I didn't have it outlined. I didn't have it specified. So I could actually claim that that is not something I'm going to accept ever. And until you know what you're willing to accept and what you're willing not to accept, for example, and that's all part of describing your values, you can't set healthy boundaries. If you can't set healthy boundaries, you can't create a healthy relationship. You can't be in a healthy relationship with anybody. I was just working with somebody, and this is in a work situation, and she had got this new job, and she was all excited. She's in sales. She was super excited about it. She said the guy is really great. You know, I love working with the people. But then she would tell me, well, you know, we get in these meetings, and then he would just trash me out because I hadn't met my numbers, and she'd only been there like maybe a month or two, and it kept happening over and over. And I said, well, this is not a way to be treated. You know, I just said it to her point blank as we were looking, because you don't notice. You think, oh, I'm working. I'm just, you know, I'm trying to make a name for myself in this business. And what's wrong? Something must be wrong with me. And I go, no, nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong is the dynamics. He has proved himself over and over. You know, there was a pattern, right?
Right.
And we know in these toxic relationships that it's like a roller coaster. This is the other thing where the person may be really nice, and then they trash you, they hit you, they do a really unhealthy behavior. They gaslight you, they manipulate you. It's all about control. That's the overarching thing. It's about control. And then it goes back up again. So then we get into this really confused status. So she's like, but he's, you know, da 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 da. And that's another sign of, if you don't know your values and you don't know your boundaries, you start to fall into patterns of what I call making excuses for somebody else's bad behavior. You just start making excuses for their behavior. It happens to be bad, but you're not recognizing it. You just make an excuse. I did it all the time. I go, but he's so kind. He's so sweet. He's so this. He's so that. He's so, you know, supportive. I wouldn't go that far, but, you know, talking about my husband, right? My ex-husband.
He was consistent.
So he was consistent being inconsistent, and that's what takes you off your rocker. So these steps to create a healthy relationship 100% always start with you. Like sometimes the client will say, well, okay, do you help me write a profile on some dating site? I go, no, I don't. No, I don't. Because it doesn't really matter. What matters is you. What matters is you, is how you think of yourself, and know with confidence that you are worthy. How many women say, I'm not enough? I'm just not enough. Because how we grew up, maybe, you know, our parents maybe didn't intentionally do it. Maybe they did. I don't know. Everyone has these different experiences, right? But we have this built-in self-criticism, which is a way of protecting ourselves in one way, but on the other, it just crushes us. So we have to change that dialogue. So this is another way, changing the dialogue we have with ourselves.
So my question is, because I recently ended my marriage of 24 years, more than 50% of my life.
Yes, I understand.
So I was joking with Ace about this. I'm going through the anxieties of a teenager living on their own for the first time, and I'm in my mid-40s. Boundaries was never something discussed growing up.
Right? No.
And so for somebody who doesn't know how to find their values, what is just something simple that they can start with in reference to how to identify their values, so then they can start building their boundaries and can start that whole self-care, self-kind love healing process?
I'm glad you asked that. Also, just to let you know, I was 59 when I left. And at 63, I found the love of my life. So everything is possible. So I
Woohoo!
just want to tell you that. Okay.
We like that.
Yeah. So I think I'm old enough to be your mother. All your mothers there. The first question is asking yourself, sitting down and saying, what's important to me? And you can look at what you experienced and identify. I I didn't like him yelling at me. So value. I don't want to be yelled at. No yelling. That's important in my life. That's why it's all under the umbrella of kindness. Okay. What else didn't you like? I didn't like him controlling all the money. Oh, I have a value. So you see how it's kind of backwards because you have that
Right.
experience of what you didn't like, what you didn't. It's probably easier to go that way. So, he controlled the money. Well, I'm an adult. For heaven's sakes, I have friggin' MBA in finance. No joke here. And he just gave me, because I lived overseas, so he gave me an allowance to spend money on, to spend for the food and everything else. Heavens forbid if I wanted to buy something that was like $400, and then he could spend that much money, but not me. So it's like, and so so I would go down the list, write down what you experienced that you didn't like like what prompted the divorce, what prompted the breakup, what prompted that. You know what you didn't like, and then flip it around into the positive. What do I want? This is how I want to be treated. This is what's important to me. I want somebody who cares about me, who doesn't yell at me, who shows thoughtfulness, who when I'm with him, I feel comfortable. I can feel it in my heart. I'm not afraid, right? So I'm not afraid.
Right.
Fear was a huge thing. I was terrified. And to let you know, the whole sentence of love is kind, the whole sentence is love is kind, not terrorizing. Because we were terrorized in our home. And my poor daughter grew up in this. And when she became an adolescent, then he started to mistreat her. So I want to protect my children. Okay.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right? And sometimes you have the old thinking that, oh, I have to stay in the marriage because of the children. And it leads women to make such poor decisions. Now, I know I couldn't get out easily. And I recognize women can't always just get out when they want to. But the reason is not because of the children. It's something else. It could be her fear. It could be a money situation she needs to settle. It could be a lot of things. But what I know for sure, children know. Children observe.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a fear that I also had. I waited till my daughter turned major, 18. Otherwise, he would have accused me of kidnapping, which he still did, even though she was over 18 when I left. But you have to be careful of those. There's real life situations that you have to assess, and you
Right.
have to assess your own safety. Right, safety is so key when it comes time to making that decision that you want to leave. But it's children observe and they pick it up. And that's a whole another subject we can go into about the children. And of course, that breaks my heart. That just kills me. And it makes
We
me
can
sad.
save that. Yeah, we can save that. I've got a son in college, so I understand from that standpoint, and we can save that one for another podcast because I
Sure.
really want to get back to finding the joy in this kind love,
Mm.
and the baby steps that you've identified on trying to find our values. Because what you explained doesn't sound hard. It actually sounds very easy. And there's so many of these great courses and great pieces of information on how to define your boundaries. But this is the first time I've heard that the boundaries relate to the values.
Yes, absolutely. And boundaries are not walls to protect you. Boundaries are not walls to protect you. Boundaries are there for you to teach others how to treat you. Boundaries are there for you to teach others how to treat you. This is really fundamental and very critical. And this is why I say this is about honoring yourself. I'm honoring myself. And being self-kind is not selfish, it's not indulgent. It's about empowerment. When you are kind to yourself and you do all these things, it's a state of empowerment. And when you teach people, and who's responsible for the teaching? You are. You are. So I get this all the time with my clients, all the time. But they're not doing it. I set my boundary and I said, I don't allow, don't yell at me, but they keep yelling at me. And, over and over, like my friend, with her boss. And I said, well, who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for maintaining your boundary? I am. That's right. So what are you going to do about it? So now it comes to making decisions and making choices. So it takes time for some people to change. We allow them. You say, please don't yell at me. Or when you yell at me, or the next time you yell at me, I'm going to end the conversation. If you're on the phone, I'm going to walk away, go to another room, right? Those are setting boundaries and you're letting them know. If they continue to do it, you tap in. I don't really like this. You're talking to yourself, okay? I don't really like this. This is just not making me feel good. What choices do I have? I can stay or I can leave. Now, we can leave the room or we can leave the relationship. In my friend's case, the one I was coaching, she said she quit after 4 months. She said she became a new person. How it leads to joy. When you're in these situations about your boundaries are not being respected, it's your responsibility. And when you take that power back, because why don't we do it? This is the thing. We don't do it because, we don't want to be rude. We want to be nice. We want to be liked. And so we can't say those things. And what happens? Well, geez, think about it. Are they being nice to you? No. Are they being respectful of you? Well, no, not that either. Oh, so that's okay that they do that to you. That's okay, because that's the message you're giving. People can behave any way they want. Sorry, newsflash. Newsflash. Anybody can behave the way they want. It's your set of values based, that create your boundaries, that create your self-empowerment to say, yes, I will accept this. No, I won't accept this. This is how I'm going to deal with it. And this is how I'm going to live my life. And that's how the long string to how you get to your joy. When you create that you're worthy, that you deserve to be treated with kindness. And it starts with you. It starts being kind to you and knowing that why do you want somebody in your life who puts you down, who insults you, who is cruel to you? Why? If you can't answer that question truthfully, then you're going to still stay in it. And we have, it's my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, it's this friend, it's that friend, it's this buddy. But why? Then you start to say, that's not a healthy relationship. You know what? It's making me ill.
Yeah.
There is not one woman, and I've spoken to, I don't know, thousands of women all over the world who's been in an abusive relationship who has not had a physical ailment.
That is very true. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm going to interject on that one just because Katie actually met me right after I left an abusive narcissistic relationship. And I was incredibly frail. Like I was 80 pounds. Like I couldn't eat because my complex PTSD and my nervous system was so out of balance that everything on a physical level looked like I was falling, like I was pretty much decaying alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember also, I also had another, see, I chose to leave after a few times, but what was really interesting was before we even got to the getting back to the empowerment, there was the healing, right? Because you're in that consistent fear. Finally, move into those actions of self-love. And I feel like everything that you're mentioning sounds like I could have used you a couple years ago. but
Yeah.
but it is really beautiful to hear that there is somebody out there also working in those means, because a lot of times women, from what I've come across, is yes, they get stuck in that trap of the excuses or even maybe the societal norm of being in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending, we don't always tell people like, hey, so we're really suffering here.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. And you know, it's you know, and that's what happened to me. It's called shame, right? It's called shame. We live in shame. I was too embarrassed to tell anybody that how much I was suffering in my marriage. You remember I told you I was married 18 years before I even knew I was in an abusive relationship, right? And it was at that time when I discovered it that I then told 3 people, only 3 people, my brother and my 2 best friends, of the relationship I was in. I was still holding on to that shame. And then when we escaped, of course, then cat was out of the bag.
Right.
and then I got 2 things. Wow, that's so brave of you. And then 2, what took you so long?
Yep.
Right.
Ooh, yeah.
So, you know, when you can't get out for whatever the reasons are, I get it. And completely. And it's everybody's journey. But what I do know for sure is that doing the work, you can create a healthy, joyful, productive life. I know that. I've done the work. I'm doing the work. This is lifelong learning. It's lifelong remembering. What did we do? You know, you go back, you realize it. And what will be interesting is that when, I'm not going to say if, because I'm just going to put that on you. When you get into a new relationship and the guy is so kind, you're going to think it's weird. You're going to think something's
Yes.
off, right? You're going to have to learn how to receive the kindness. So, for example, my ex, if I asked him a question, he took it as a personal attack. And I would just like be asking him like for clarification. He would just scream at me. Oh my God. He would just scream at me like whatever. So I was afraid to ask questions. And so in this relationship I have now, I would ask a question and I didn't get yelled at. I go, oh, really? Okay. So then I started to feel comfortable. It was a learning process for both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, this poor guy, I think about it, he's so sweet. I go, I had like my Duke suck. You say anything against me or whatever, I'm gonna make sure my boundaries are real strong. And he put up with all of it because on the other side, I was really kind. I wasn't, I was just so afraid. And when I told him my stories, and I mean, I swear, even to this day, he will say something, or no, I will say something or do something, and I'll have in my mind that my ex, 16 years later, been out 16 years, I will have in my mind, oh, he's going to yell at me. I'm thinking my guy's going to yell at me because my ex-husband would have yelled at me. And he never does. And I go, wow, he didn't yell at me. So it's just like, so I'm still learning to accept how kind he is. And how, when I tell him the stories I did, he goes, why would anybody do that? Like my ex-husband would yell at me if I brought back a kilo, a couple pounds of apples, and then one was bad, and he was really particular. He goes, don't ever buy apples again. Okay. And so when I was here, I was afraid to buy fruit. No joke.
Yeah.
I was afraid to buy fruit. And when I told him that story, he said, like, why? Why would anybody get upset over, not at me, but, why would my ex have gotten upset about the fruit? He couldn't understand, right? So you can see they're just made of two different molds, thank God, right? But these are the things where, hopefully, you'll go through as you're learning, and but it will get better over time, for sure.
And I love how you said that it's lifelong learning, because I don't remember who the quote was from, but the quote was something along the lines of, once you stop growing, you start decaying.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as
Yes.
we're learning, we're
Yeah.
growing. But I want to add in that it's more than just lifelong learning, it's lifestyle. We're learning a whole new lifestyle as well, because we're changing every single little aspect, tweaking every little aspect of our lives from what was our norm to what we want.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important to know that you can do this. You can absolutely do this. This is like, and there's no, real important, no self-judgment, no self-criticism. Why is so and so here and I'm not there? How did I get into that relationship? That's a whole nother story. That, sometimes it's healthy to go see a therapist, a qualified or counselor, however you call them, professional, to deal with some of the deep traumas I did. And to know that you're just, every day you're moving forward. I mean, and just hosting this podcast, right? Just doing this is teaching yourselves that my life's important. I'm doing something, but you don't have to prove it to anybody. Just remembering inside your heart, tapping inside your heart. I'm worthy. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm figuring this out step by step, but I can do this. Life is worth it. Life is definitely worth it.
That,
So beautiful.
yeah, that's beautiful. That rings true. That's like tearing me up right now, actually. I agree with the statement from before that when we're in, whether it be dealing with parents, siblings, friends, or ex relationship partnerships, we get so used to that negative taint
Mm-hmm.
that becomes our new normal. And redefining the values, resetting the boundaries, the healing, and acknowledging that we are worthy, we do deserve more. I will admit, for me personally, for a while felt like a lie. I thought I was lying to myself. And I finally got over it because I put a post-it note on my bathroom mirror that says, get over it, you're worthy. Because I have to give myself sarcasm, otherwise it doesn't get past my my defenses.
That's her way of being kind.
Yeah, that's my way of being ominous positivity. So because I'm so used to hearing the you're worthy, it wasn't getting anywhere.
Right.
So for me, I had to throw the sarcasm in. And it was seeing that stupid post-it note and making myself laugh as to you actually have to give yourself sarcasm to see that you are worthy, that it finally started to sink in.
Mhm.
So I am all about there's no one true way to do anything. So I love that you have all of these different parts and pieces with the defining of it. And most importantly, that we can take baby steps to get there.
It's always going to be baby steps because how you'll be after this podcast is different than you were before it, right? Just
True.
something you pick up, and a week from now we're going to all be different. We're going to have different experiences, and it's how we assimilate it. And I'm really adamant about not being critical about it, what we're doing, not judging ourselves. It's really easy to slip into, how did I get into this relationship? What's wrong with me? I should have known better. All of this talk that is a direct line to, I'm not worthy. So it doesn't serve any purpose. So we have to stop ourselves and just ask, what's the value of that kind of conversation with our own selves? If we didn't want to hear it from somebody else, we definitely don't want to hear it from ourselves. And showing self-compassion is going to be really key during this whole process. And just saying to yourself, you know what, it's, this is a challenge and I'm having a rough time, but I'm not alone. It can be something just as simple as that. I just, started down on myself, and I don't want to do that, but I did. I'm going to just try to show myself some more self-compassion right now. How can I show myself some self-compassion? That's also a way of being kind to yourself, right?
One of yeah,
Mhm.
one of I do agree with that completely. And one of my favorite tools is something called leaving shouldville.
Yeah.
My sisters and I decided that should is a bad word
Yeah, it is a bad
because
word.
don't should on yourself. I should have known better. Don't should on yourself. Um, and for me, the longest one of the ones that I struggled with was around money.
Mm.
And one of the parts of one of the tools of leaving Shouldville, one of the aspects is every penny I have ever spent was well spent, even if I choose never to spend a penny that way again today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I learned my lesson. I can move on. I can leave it behind. There's no blame. There's no regret. There's no guilt. There's no shame attached to that statement. And I will admit that has helped a lot. So sometimes finding the reframe of just I didn't know then what I know now. So now
Mm-hmm.
I can move forward with better knowledge. And that really sounds like a big key behind everything that you're doing. And I love the kindness added to it, because we just love raising the positivity level of the planet in any way that we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, anytime you say I should, then that's just like I'm self-judging.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Mm.
So the reframe is really important because it's not helpful. You'll start recognizing your behavior or somebody else's behavior or your thinking that's just not helpful to helping you move forward. And again, when you recognize it, it's not to give you the chance to say, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that."
Yeah. The
It's really
recognizes, oh, what is the opposite?
Mhm.
Because I
Yeah.
don't like the way this makes me feel. So the opposite must be true.
And it's also about that you recognized it. Oh, I recognized it, because we can't make changes until we start to recognize what our own behavior is. Oh, I've been doing that. Okay. And when you start, that's the first step, is the awareness, like anything else. Like we learn what awareness of what are not healthy relationships. We learn about, and so we can recognize those. We learn about how to uh, be kind to ourselves. We're learning about how to recognize when we're not, kind to ourselves, but not judge ourselves, and just say, okay, but I'm glad I recognized it. And then now I can keep moving. And that's how you see the healing. When you start triggers, when you're not triggered as much, that's a sign of healing, or the impact is not as big. That's a sign of healing. When you know how to rephrase, you recognize something, I caught myself. That's a sign of healing. So those are all these little steps that make a big difference.
What'd you think of Ace?
So I really love the building blocks that you're creating, right? You're having these moments of, which is beautiful, because in the event that we self-criticize, I don't know how many of us out there don't do that. I find that this was something that wasn't really taught as much for whatever reason. And depending on, like you said, sometimes it comes from our parents, sometimes it comes from the educational system. I feel like understanding the points of what will heal us, acknowledging, oh, hey, I was feeling self-criticism. Let me do the opposite. Let me self-praise. Now that can pull the pendulum in a different direction sometimes. So I'm curious, and this is also a nice little segue to this next question. What are the myths of self-kindness that derail us from creating a life we desire?
Yeah, and there are quite a few of them. I'm just, but I talked about this, the other day as well. I want to just pull something here. So, when when we believe that self-kindness is being selfish, right? Oh, you're just being selfish. But it's just, we realize now from what I've been saying here is that it's just absolutely the opposite of being selfish, right? And when we have that overarching thing, then we won't be kind to ourselves. When we're not kind to ourselves, we won't set healthy boundaries because we think we're being selfish. Kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. Another thing is, I think everyone does it, it's like we think people pleasing is being kind, right? Oh, well, I want people to like me, right? And what do we do? I'll tell you, I was an ace at this, right? With my ex-husband. I would just, like, the moments where he was kind of not mean, but not really super kind, but I was in the middle. It's like I would just twist myself into this pretzel to just do anything to keep the peace. So people pleasing is like keep the peace. You're saying the peace, please. You don't say that fast. And that's what we did. But what are we doing? We're just kind of we're breaking our own back to create something that's not real. And when we're doing that, and you mentioned it earlier, Katie, that you think you were just lying. Well, the fact is you were. We all were. We were saying this was okay when it really wasn't okay. And that's the whole thing about being, one of the myths is that the whole thing about, being nice is okay. It's not okay when you're portraying yourself as somebody else. When you're saying, oh, it's okay that you talk to me that way because you're not saying anything, right? Because you don't want to be mean. Oh, that's right. Self-kindness is being mean. I'm not a mean person. Do you want to be viewed as a mean person? No. So we don't do that. But it's not mean. Again, it's honoring yourself. Am I honoring yourself? So these whole things, like we talked about the boundaries, it's really basically your guidelines of how do you teach other ones. And when you say yes instead of saying no, when you feel it in your body, right? I really don't want to do this. Why is he making me do this? Or, whatever it is. Now, when you're in a business, it's different. If you're in a business and they tell you got to make a presentation, you go, I really don't want to do this. Different story, right?
Right.
We got to really make sure.
Yes.
But we're just taught basically we don't want to be rude. We don't want to s- think that people where we're not cooperating, we're not nice. But when we give in, when you give in and you give in and you give in, what happens? You give up who you are, and then you just become this person that you don't even recognize yourself.
Yeah.
You become a person, it's just like the real you is not showing up. The real you have lost the real you. When I came back to the United States, everyone was talking about, oh, be your authentic self. I had no idea what that meant. I didn't know what that meant because, I'd been out in the United States for 25 years. I mean, I came back to visit, but not all this stuff. I go, what's an authentic self? Well, now I know. It's being able to think and believe in yourself and share who you really are, what you really think. No, I don't like that. That bothers me to be able to say that with confidence. And if they don't care or they're bothered, that's their problem. Because this is the other thing about self-kindness or about being kind and everything else. It's like, oh, well, we can't make them upset. We talked about that earlier, right? There's another myth. Well, you're not responsible for anybody else's behavior but your own. You hear it over and over. But we have to get used to them being upset at us. Let them be upset at us. I'm not going to say it's okay when it's not okay because it makes me ill. It makes me sick physically, get nauseated, not eat for 2 years. So
Yeah,
these
that
are,
was a.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I was going to say
Oh,
I
no.
didn't want to interrupt, but that I'm aligned with this concept because that's actually how my last relationship ended. Was I
Mhm.
told him it's not okay 3 times, and the third time they still didn't hear me. And that's when I was like, it's not okay. It really isn't. And if I allowed myself to stay in that situation, I would have not eaten for 2 years again. And I knew it.
It's not anyway. That's really important what you shared, Ace, right? And I want you to recognize it and honor yourself from taking a decision in your own name, on your own being, in your own authentic self. That was huge. And it takes courage to do that, right? And people don't understand how much courage it takes to leave these relationships and to stand up for yourself. And we have society pressures. Like I had the society. Oh, you need to be married. You need to have children. You need to, you can't divorce. That's against the religion. All these things. And it's like, because one of the um, mantras that I created, I don't know if you remember, I said, I don't have to be a martyr. Thank you very much. I don't have to. So that was a value. I was telling you about the values early on. I had that value that I needed to be well, I had to do, right? So I had to change that value and say, I don't have to be a martyr. I don't care what anybody else says. I want to survive. See the difference? So we get sucked into all these myths that are the world is telling us how we should believe, what we should believe and how we should behave. And what ends up is that we just lose ourselves. And now it's this journey to get back to discover, maybe for the first time, who we really are the authentic self that I didn't even know what it meant when I first arrived, right?
And on that note, I know we're coming up on towards the end of time. Um, so I love all of the nuggets that you have shared and all of the insights and the baby steps. But what's one key takeaway for everyone listening to this episode?
That self-kindness is not self-indulgent. It's about honoring yourself so that you can live a life that is joyful, productive, where you can be with the kind love of your life and really have your own voice and share it with confidence. That's what it is. And I just want to add, too, this whole thing we kind of do is in the Love is Kind pledge that my daughter and I wrote. It's this, it's just a pledge. I don't want to say it's a poem because it's not. These are declarations to remind yourself of who you are and what you deserve. And to me, I will always say you deserve to be treated with kindness, and it starts first with you. So I'll end with that.
That I think is perfect for everyone to walk away with, because it's a wonderful reminder that everything starts with yourself. Everything starts within.
Yeah.
So on that note, thank you, Rosie, for being a part of this episode and sharing all this wonderful, impactful news. I don't know what else to say other than the fact that you are an adopted mom now, just so you know.
I'm here. I love it. I want to hug you.
Yes, we're sending lots of virtual hugs and everything else like that, because it's very impactful what you do.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing that.
It's a joy. It's a joy.
So that's the end for this episode of Touched and Empowered. Thank you, all of our wonderful listeners. We love you, sending hugs, and have your best day ever.
Thank you for joining us. We hope that the discussion today will inspire you to take positive action in your life. Until next week, be empowered.